The EliteFTS SS Yoke Barbell, the original and still the best SS Yoke bar you can buy. This is Selwyn from WynnStrength.com bringing you a review of the EliteFTS SS Yoke Bar, or their version of the Safety Squat Barbell. I've had it for about a year now, so I think it's a great time for me to place a review so I can give my thoughts and opinions after an actual year of usage, not just an unboxing video or some things along those lines. We've had a year test of this. We've loaded over 400 pounds on the barbell. We've had over 400 pounds squatted with the barbell, so I think it's a great time to show you some conclusions, some pros and cons, and why I think the EliteFTS SS Yoke Bar is still the best SSB Safety Squat Barbell you can buy, available on the market today. So this video will be the first video in a series going into the Safety Squat Barbell, so I'll include my initial review of the EliteFTS yoke bar, as well as the second video will be why you should get a yoke bar, and then finally we'll go over some exercises and some tips and tricks as to how to go about using the yoke bar. I think it's that important of a barbell that I'll give you 3 series of videos just so you can see exactly the in-depth review of the barbell, as well as how to use it, because it's an interesting piece of equipment that I think is the first specialty barbell you should buy. So I originally purchased the barbell in November 2019 during their pre-Black Friday sales. I purchased it for $345, and that's including shipping and taxes. The suggested retail price on EliteFTS.com is, I believe, $425 right now. One piece of advice I can give you is never pay the $425 if you can help it. I wouldn't be clamoring down to buy this barbell tomorrow, especially if the price is listed at $425 plus shipping and taxes. So that $425 listed right now is what you have to pay in addition to the taxes and the shipping. They regularly run specials. Well, they regularly run specials maybe 3 times a year that I've noticed. I believe their biggest discount is given just before Black Friday, so I think in the end of October, start of November months, where they give you $345, and that includes free shipping. There's no other bonuses, so you're not going to get the free t-shirts or anything like that, but I think $345 for this barbell is a great price for what you get, and that price point makes it super competitive from a value perspective, especially when you compare it to other options available on the market, namely the Rogue SB1 as well as the Titan Fitness SSB version 2. It puts this right in the middle ground, but I think far superior to both of those, and I'll go over why. So I won't go over why you should buy this. Well, I won't go over why you should buy the SSB barbell, because that'll be covered in my second video. What I'll go over is why you should buy the EliteFTS SS Yoke Bar. There are so many pros to this barbell. It's solidly made. I think it's rated to 1,500 pounds. I'm never going to get close to lifting 1,500 pounds. I don't think anybody has just yet. So with that being said, it's very, very overbuilt for what it's capable of, for what any body is capable of right now. And it's trained with some of the strongest people in the world at the EliteFTS facility. They're putting up far greater weights than I am, as well as more frequently usage than I am. So with those things in mind, durability and quality is not really a question in my mind. I know that this can take a beating, because it takes a beating by far stronger people, far more usage than me. I do use this maybe on average once a week, depending on the training cycle, sometimes up to twice a week, and sometimes not for a couple of months. So that being said, I mean, it definitely doesn't get as much usage as a regular barbell, because it is that specialty barbell, so you're not going to use it every day. It's not going to be a workhorse barbell. It's going to be that barbell that kind of fills in the gap so you can get some extra accessory work. I've squatted personally around 400 pounds, just around 400 pounds with this barbell, and there's obviously no whip, no nothing like that. It is super sturdy, super solid. I'm going to start off with probably the biggest pro of the barbell, which is the foam padding. This is probably what sets the EliteFTS barbell apart from all the others available on the market today. It's probably the best, most well thought out design out of all the foam pads you can get. I don't think you will ever have to replace it. Based on the videos at the EliteFTS gym, they're using the original barbells, the original bar pads that look pretty beat up and well worn in. You'll notice when I go to the back of the barbell, Mine pretty much looks brand new except for some sweat stains. And based on the videos, it will take a while, probably a couple of years for me personally to break it in. It's probably going to take, if you have this at a gym, it's going to take a couple months to break in just because you have more usage of it. And that comes down to the inner foam that they've used. Well, we'll start off with the outside, which is a nice, what looks like leather. Very sturdy, very durable. I've sweated on it, we've got chalk on it. There's really no signs of wearing. Apart from the dirt, it looks like it's brand new. So I don't think you have to worry about durability from there. Even the paint, even the writing on there isn't wearing off. So when we open up, when we take off the leather padding and look inside, you'll actually notice there's two types of foam rubber inside. That's what helps create such a nice, comfortable pad. The inner layer right around the barbell is like this really hard foam type material. It's very similar to foam to the type that I use in my day job for packing electronic equipment. And then the outer layer, the nice comfortable part that actually touches you, is a softer rubber and feels more like, say, carpet underlay. If you've ever experienced that, it's quite spongy and a little soft, and I think that's what helps. Those two types of foam and rubber help create that soft and firm padding that make this pad far superior to the others available on the market. It's not just one type of rubber or foam. It's two types that are nicely coupled together that will help adjust to your shoulders along the way. And the reason EliteFTS calls it a yoke barbell is because over time that barbell, the pad, will actually mold to your shoulders and mold to the back of your trap area to create more of a similar experience to a yoke rather than just being a pad that sits on top of your back. It'll mold and sit around your back, and that'll help, again, distribute those forces on your back and just make it a more comfortable barbell to lift with, especially when the weights get super heavy. But for me personally, because I don't use it as frequently as it does get used at a gym, as well as I don't lift as heavy weights as they do at those other gyms, it will take me quite a while for this to break in and turn into a yoke. So right now it's just a pad that sits on my back rather than a yoke that sits around my back. And that brings us to the handles. I think the spacing here is perfect. You'll see it sits just nicely around the shoulders, and I mean, I am 5'8", around 205 to 210 pounds, so I'm a little shorter and have a narrower shoulder width than a lot of the heavyweight people that use this. So if you can fit from my size all the way up to some people that are weighing 300, 400 plus pounds, they've really figured out how to make this perfect, I guess because your head doesn't really get bigger as much as your shoulders do. So it'll sit in and around your head, sit in and around your shoulders, and you find a nice balance where this barbell will actually sit on your back without having to worry about if it'll fall down or not. It'll sit nicely, well balanced. The handles do screw in and out, and I think that's great. It brings me to one of the cons of the barbell. It's a really slight con, and it's more like my usage factor, is the fact that when the weight starts to get heavy, my hands start to do weird things, because they do weird things. I'll tend to do this. I'll tend to torque down rather than just stay static, and that twisting or that playing in with the hands can actually unscrew one side if I don't screw it in far enough, just because of the way threading works. So that's probably the only downside to this type of handle, and I think it would be a super expensive thing to fix rather than just me not twisting my wrist when I squat. So that's probably not as big of a con as it would be for other people that cannot twist their wrists when the weights get heavy. That being said, the handles are nice. They have that nice finger groove there, so it gives you a nice place to hold the barbell. I sometimes find myself holding the barbell right up to where the padding meets the handle there, so I'm not even really on the grooved part of the handle. But again, that comes down to personal preference. They also sell a longer handle replacement that you can put in there. I think that's mainly for people with really bad shoulders or people that are really tall. I think I've seen Brian Shaw use them, and his hands, I mean, he's a giant, so his hands sit way far down than mine would just because of body measurements. But the handle feels great. The width of it doesn't feel too far or too close together. It feels just right. It feels like if I'm just standing here naturally and my hands come in front of me, that's right where the handles go. So I'm not trying to torque my hands in or out as far as it normally would if the handles were differently spaced. And I think that's, again, years of research went into this barbell, and I think that's why it's still the best barbell you can buy because they've put this research and they've had testing through it. I believe this is, I think maybe second or third gen from their original concept when they originally released the barbell. So, I mean, technically not the original, but they're the original makers that made it popular. And I think it's that those years of iterations of this barbell have made it what it is today, where it is probably built for most and really comfortable for most people. And I'm guessing if you're just really oddly shaped, then maybe it won't fit you. But if you're the average sized person, well, anywhere from 200 to 400 pounds, this barbell is going to fit you just well. And that's a huge spectrum of people. And I'll just take a step back saying that I haven't used any other SSB or / yoke bars in the past. I really only have experience with the EliteFTS bar, so I can't really give you a fair comparison when it comes to the other barbells available on the market, just because I haven't used them. I've just grown using this one. That being said, it's like when you know quality, when you feel it. It's hard to put into words, especially when I can't compare it. Things like the angle of the handles and the weight, I think, are some things that separate it from what I've been reading. Other barbells have slightly different cambers and handle angles, and I think that's what separates this from the others as well, is that specific angle where it balances nicely on your back. I'm not having to hold it to worry about keeping balance. Once you throw some weight on there, it sits into the shoulders, and there's no fear of it sliding backwards or tipping you. Well, it's always going to tip you forward, but there's no fear of it sliding backwards, especially with an exercise like the Hatfield squat where your hands aren't holding the bar, and I don't worry about it falling off my back. And I think that has a lot to do with the way that the camber works and their offset that they've installed there. The final thing that I think is great with this one is the detachable nature of the handles and the length of the pad. So the pad, the handles attach right into what looks like the pad. Obviously it's not attaching into the pad, there's a metal post here, but being able to remove the handle increases the versatility of this SSB bar compared to some other options on the market where the handles aren't removable, or the padding part is way too long, so the handles attach a little bit lower. And what that does is it allows you to, say, do a Hatfield squat without fear of hitting the handle part on the supporting barbell. That's something that I run into. I like to take the handle parts off before I do a Hatfield squat, just because I don't want to fear hitting the handles on the barbell. The other thing this opens up is the JM press. You can't really do a JM press with this, but you can do JM presses when you take the handle off, and it gives you that extra versatility there, as well as a couple of other lifts that it helps by being able to remove the handles compared to some other options on the market. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at other SS yoke bars that are available. If you can remove the handle, that's great, because it does open up a lot more options to you in the terms of exercises available. We'll move on to like the finish of the barbell. So this is where some people have different opinions on it. None of it's really functional, it's more form. That being said, I performed zero maintenance on this barbell in the last year I've owned it. I haven't even wiped chalk off of the pad. That just comes out of laziness, no other reason than that. But that being said, it is clear coated, so you will notice on the sleeves that it does start to degrade that clear coating on the end of the barbell sleeves as you put weights on and off. Now, if you're using really nice plates with that, the inside collar has that metal smooth insert, you probably won't experience that as much. But if you're using cheap Walmart plates where there's rough edges on the side like I am, when you put that on, it does have a tendency to just scratch off some of the clear coating there. Again, just aesthetically it doesn't look nice, but I'm not too worried about it because functionally it doesn't serve a purpose other than protecting the metal, and it's not really that humid here, so I'm not worried about rust or anything like that. Just keep that in mind. I haven't experienced a thing where you get giant flakes of clear coating come off. When I first bought the barbell, I was a bit more careful, but after your review, so I don't really care anymore. I just slide weights on and off. Again, how you treat your equipment is up to you. I started treating off quite nicely, and as time goes on, I stopped caring. So it doesn't really matter. You notice that the collar sleeves are welded onto the barbell. I don't think it really matters that much. You're not really doing Olympic lifts with the SS yoke bar, and if you can, that's impressive. But you don't really need the sleeves to rotate, so I think in an effort to cut down on the costs, they've just relied on just welding it straight on there. A super cheap way to do it. You don't have to worry about end caps and keeping that in place. It cuts down on the maintenance too. I don't have to oil anything. Like, nothing here has to be really maintained other than the wipe down if you get really sweaty. The collars don't move, the collars don't detach, nothing about them. The end plates are just plastic caps that I haven't tried to remove because I don't want to. You don't have to clean anything other than wipe it off and make sure that there is no big chunks of clear coating coming off that might cut you if you hold the sleeve. That's about it. Maybe clean the handles down every now and then, but other than that, it really requires zero maintenance. And provided you're not banging this on metal, the clear coating actually does hold up quite well. I've hit it on the J hooks every now and then, and it takes off a little chunk here and there, but it's really negligible and not really noticeable. And probably my biggest minor complaint with the SS Yoke Bar is the fact that regular spring collars don't fit around the sleeves. I don't know what it is with the manufacturing, why they chose to not have a standard size barbell sleeve, maybe to accommodate misshapen plates. Other than that, I don't really understand why they would do that, but standard spring collars won't fit. They say you can buy special collars that'll fit onto the end of this. That's kind of annoying. I have my cheap clamps that kind of clamp around it that work really well, or just go to Home Depot, get some spring clamps. I've got a couple of pairs of those, and they'll just fit right on, and they're $2, so don't worry about spending that $40 to get those specialized collars that go onto the end. Just grab a couple of spring clamps from Home Depot, $2, throw it on the end of there, and that'll keep the weights on really well. The reason you do want to place collars on the end of the sleeves here is that because the sleeves are smooth, and when you walk out there is going to be a tendency to shuffle a little bit. I've noticed this compared to other barbells. The barbell plates actually move a fair amount during walkout and squatting, and that's that. If you don't pay attention to that, that can really get you in trouble, because you can notice a plate. I've had a plate slide halfway down the sleeve during a set of squats, and I think that's probably not the safest thing in the world, because it doesn't have those ridge lines that other barbells do. It does have a tendency to make those weight plates slide around a lot more easily than it would normally. Just keep that in mind. Remember to always practice safe lifting. And that brings me to my second only complaint about the barbell, and that is the odd weight of the bar. The website states it's 65 pounds. I've weighed it out, and it's actually 62 pounds. I weighed it a couple of times on 2 different scales, 62 pounds every single time. I've read a couple of other reviewers, and they say theirs weighs 62 pounds as well, so I'm sure this barbell is coming out at 62 pounds. I wish they either made it 60 or 65 just because of plate math. Personally, I just removed those 2 pounds and just call it a 60-pound barbell, just because 2 pounds is whatever. It makes it easy for me to do calculations, but that's kind of a weird thing. Like, I mean, maybe it has to do with the handles and the padding. Maybe without the padding, it does weigh 60 pounds out of the machine. But again, it's kind of just a little gripe that is just ever so slightly annoying that they couldn't add 3 pounds somewhere. Part of me wants to add some magnets to this so that it can become a 65-pound barbell. Nevertheless, those are really the only 2 complaints I have about this barbell. It's just the dimensions of it. That's what it comes down to. The fact that it weighs 62 pounds and the fact that the collar sleeves aren't standard size. They're really the only 2 issues that I have to say about the barbell. Everything else is positive. Interestingly enough, I couldn't find any information directly about the warranty regarding EliteFTS's Safety Squat Barbell, but I can't imagine needing to use it. The barbell arrived pretty well packed, and I mean, there's really nothing to warranty about it. I mean, I can't imagine you snapping this barbell in half, and I guess, if you do at a regular use, I'm pretty sure you could contact EliteFTS. They have pretty good customer service from what I understand. Other than that, the only other thing that could break is if you misthread the handles. So that would be the only thing I would be cautious about, is just making sure you don't try to thread the handles in too quickly or too aggressively. But again, it's got some pretty thick threading, so I find that would be hard to do as well. Maybe the padding would wear out, but again, the padding seems super solid. year of relatively light usage for me, and it looks brand new apart from the dirt. So I can't imagine you using a warranty or needing a warranty. But again, EliteFTS is a great company that's been around for decades, and I can't imagine that they would ever not have great customer service being around that long. Hearing Dave Tate speak and hearing about other people's experience with that company, I think it sounds like a great company, and I can't imagine you'll have any troubles if you somehow manage to break this, which I doubt you would. So it's going to bring me to the cost part of the discussion. Again, I bought this November 2019 for $345 out the door. That included tax and shipping. Again, right around October, November time period, that's when they run, I think, their best sale of the year, right? Well, as of 2019. The website lists $425. Definitely don't pay that. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I can give you regarding this barbell. Don't pay sticker price, just because if you can wait 10 months to buy it, and I think it's worth the wait, unless you really don't care about the price and buy it whenever you want. But if you can wait that 10 months, hold out, definitely buy it in a year. Plan your purchases around that. Again, gives you 10 months to save up to buy this barbell. So there is that. So throw away $34 every month and at the start of the year, and then by the time November rolls around, you'll have $340. It's perfect. And that brings me to the value, because I'm basing the value of this based on the price that I paid, because I think it's a price that's easily paid by everyone else, provided you wait. At the $425 price point, it's a little on the higher end, but once we bring it down to that $345, $350 price point, it's super competitive to those available on the market. What I'll do is I'll throw up some other alternatives that they're available on the market and just discuss why I think this is one of the best ones. We'll show some websites. So here we have the first big name brand option for Safety Squat Bar, and that's obviously Rogue Fitness. We have the SB1 Rogue Safety Squat Barbell. Retail price of $395. You'll notice that is $30 cheaper than the retail price of the EliteFTS SS Yoke Bar, but we both will have to add in shipping and taxes for both of them. So this is the cheaper of the two options if you don't want to wait for a sale. However, Rogue also runs Black Friday sales as well, Black November sales as of 2019, which will drop this, or I think it'll exclude the shipping. I haven't really taken advantage of that sale promotion, but it will drop this price $395 down. However, just remember that the EliteFTS does drop their barbell down to $345 with taxes and shipping out the door around that same time too. So you probably want to compare those two items at the same time to get that relative price there. But we'll notice here, it's, as we scroll down, it's a 70-pound barbell. It actually evens out to a relatively normal weight there. And we just have reviews. So we'll have a look at the specs here. It's very similar. They've tested it at 1,000 pounds. They've got a vinyl urethane top coat, closed cell foam for the foam type. But what I really want to point you to is this padding here. This is the issue that I would personally have with the barbell, is that the padding here at this point is going to start getting a weakness, I think, as the weights get heavier, just because it isn't as thick as the EliteFTS barbell that has a lot more padding, and this foam here goes straight across, and then the handles are set onto the back barbell. So the back pad is your primary pad, as it were, and then the shoulder parts here actually add on to that. So it's a lot more of a reinforced design, I would say. And we scroll across, it looks very similar. You notice the handles are slightly longer. They don't have the finger grooves. I'm not too concerned with those finger grooves. I generally don't use them most of the time. But you will notice that the camber is there as well. So I mean, the angles I think are great. It looks like they're using regular collars, so the sleeves are probably the right size for using regular clamps and regular barbells. So I think there's the option there, and that this, I mean, yes, it's made in the USA, so that's great. It's going to be Rogue, so the quality is going to be there. You're going to have great warranty. The only issue I have with this one is the longer handles, which might be good for some people, but mainly it's just the padding. That padding there is probably going to cause an issue, especially here when the weights get heavy, and maybe after 3 years of home use, maybe even 5 years of home use. I feel like
that padding there is going to cause a weak point where it's going to pinch and become quite uncomfortable in your shoulders. And here we come to the second option on the market that I would say probably, this is a tough one to advise you not to buy, just based on the amount of reviews out there and how similar the Titan Fitness Safety Squat Bar version 2 actually is to the EliteFTS SS Yoke Bar. Given as someone that does own a lot of Titan Fitness in my own garage gym, so I do have the T3 rack. I have a fair amount of the attachments to that. I have their landmine, their farmer walk handles. I'm not anti-Titan Fitness. I actually quite like them as a company, just because they are putting equipment out there that allows people to afford it that can't necessarily afford the nicer stuff like the Rogue and the more name brand equipment. So that being said, we have here a price point of $220, and that's just going to be plus tax. You do have that free shipping, so that's already half of the standard price of the EliteFTS. And I'm sure, and I know the Titan does sales periodically, so this might be even 10 to 15% cheaper than this $220. But do keep in mind they do run sales, and with that $220 mark, there's going to be no free shipping onto that, and you're just going to have to add some tax. So half the price of the EliteFTS, and even when we drop that EliteFTS to that $350 price point, this is still a significant drop in money. And that being said, you can tell I think they've just cloned the bar. It looks identical except for that clear coating. So this one looks like it's a stainless steel coating, or like just a steel finish, no finish on the outside. Like everything from the padding here, it doesn't extend out as far, maybe an inch on each side, but that padding right there, same exact design, the handles, that camber of the bar, it's pretty much an EliteFTS SS Yoke Bar with the Titan Fitness stamp on the back. And that's what makes it pretty hard to discourage someone from buying this, especially if you're on a budget. If you have a budget, I'd be hard pressed to not tell you to buy this. I would highly recommend you to buy the EliteFTS squat bar, but if budget's tight, then by all means, I don't think you can go wrong with this one. I think the only difference you'd have to worry about is your interface with the barbell, where it does rest on your back. So this padding here, I'm not sure what the material is. Also, I'm not sure what the interior foam is going to be like. So they're probably the only 2 points here that I could say is going for the EliteFTS. You probably want to pay attention to what this is inside and outside, just because this might show signs of wear and tear before the EliteFTS does. But for the sake of $150 at the cheapest rates of the EliteFTS, you might be able to just buy a replacement pad and yoke from Titan and see what they say. And again, if we scroll down to the description and to the specs, pretty much identical, even down to the 61 pounds. We are talking about Titan here, so the quality controls might not be the same. Maybe we're going to get 60 to 63 pound variants, and this might be indicative of the material that they use for that closed cell, for that foam padding. Maybe that's where they get that decrease in that 1 pound there. But it's this pretty much identical. And if budget is a big concern of yours, it's hard for me to not tell you to buy this barbell. As big of a fan as I am of the EliteFTS. So there's your second option, and I think this would be pretty much second spot on the recommendations of the Safety Squat Barbell.
So tying it all together, I think when you can buy the EliteFTS at $350, this SSB represents some incredible value available out there out of all the products you have. I think the fact that it's one of the original barbells you can buy, the build quality, the fact that it's used almost everywhere that I can see, the great marksmanship, the great craftsmanship that goes into the build of this is just immense. And I think for that $350, you're really getting great value for money here. And I don't think you can go wrong with the SSB by EliteFTS. My overall review and rating would be 9.5 out of 10. I think it's pretty much an almost perfect barbell. Again, the only two things I would improve, and they're super minor and really don't matter in the big scheme of things, especially when you're talking about like lifting heavy weights, is make the collars, I'll make the sleeves a standard size so any regular spring collar can fit onto there, and then make the barbell weigh either 60 or 65 pounds. They're the only two negatives about this barbell. Everything else about this barbell I can't complain about. It's great build, it's great finish, the padding is super comfortable, the angle of everything is done, I think, to fit everybody as greatly as possible. The balance is fantastic, the versatility is great, you have the removable handles, you have replaceable handles, the foam padding is super comfortable. By the looks of it, it's going to break in nicely over the next couple of years once the heavy usage starts kicking in. And I don't think you can go wrong with it. I think you should stick with I think you should support, in this case, a great company. EliteFTS is a company that's been around for decades. I used to follow them back in the day. I've always followed them back in the day. I have their bands, so I think they're a good company to stand behind and support. So wrapping it up, if you do want to buy an SSB or a safety squat bar, definitely buy the EliteFTS, look into it. That's my biggest recommendation I can give you. I think it should be the first specialty barbell you should buy, but I'll talk about that in the next video, and I'll go over why you should use one, as well as some tips and tricks as to how to use one. This has been Salman from WynnStrength, and remember, a better life through strength. In no way is this video affiliated or sponsored by EliteFTS. I mean, it kind of sounds like it because it's such a positive review of the barbell, but it really is based on the merits of the barbell. I paid out of my own pocket for this barbell. I mean, unless EliteFTS wants to sponsor this little garage gym YouTube channel, that'd be awesome. But this is an honest review and rating from someone that paid out of their own pocket to buy this barbell and has used it for a year.